Hi, I'm Kevin Foster, and today I'm with my good friend Exdonavon Peak, who we've always just called Peak. So he's a good friend of mine. We met,
Very good friend.
very good friend,
Yes, sir. Mhm.
and so I had a lot of time to spend one-on-one with Peak in the kitchen at the Federal Prison Camp in Butner, North Carolina. And we became very good friends, and we would work out some together and walk the track together and just spend some time. And we really enjoyed each other's company. And a little known fact about Peak is he's also an expert in Chinese astrology. And he was kind enough to do my Chinese astrology chart several times and give me a bunch of advice, and which I really appreciated. And I got out of the camp in October 2014.
Yeah.
Peak got out when? When did you leave?
June of 2016.
June 2016.
Yes, sir.
So I was in the prison system for 37 months. Peak was in there much longer. How much time did you serve altogether?
I did 19 years, 6 months in the system.
And that is a long time.
Very long
A
time.
very long time. And when Peak first came to the camp, he was right at his 10-year mark. And in order to qualify for the camp, you had to be within 10 years of release date with no violence in your background. And Peak was very fortunate to be able to get that transfer right at the 10-year mark, which was really good for him.
Yeah.
So you were actually sentenced to like 30 years, weren't you?
Yes, I was. Yeah, for crack cocaine, drug crime.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the circumstances around how all that came about? Do you feel comfortable talking about that at all?
Sure. I was part of a drug conspiracy that came out of the Southern District of Mississippi. I went to trial through bad lawyering. I rejected a 4-year telephone count, then a 5-year travel count. Basically, that means that I would just pled guilty to either using the telephone to conduct a crime, or the other count that my lawyer told me to reject was a 5-year count that said I traveled interstate to commit a crime. So my lawyer told me to reject both of those, and then I went to trial and got 30 years.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
Now, most guys go ahead and just take the deal, because I took my deal, because I was threatened with 20 to 30 years.
Oh, yeah.
And I ended up pleading guilty to one count and got 48 months. So you could have had a deal very similar to mine.
Very similar, yes.
But your attorney told you to reject that deal. What, did he think that you were going to win a trial? Is that what happened?
Yes. I don't know what he really thought, because he had a lot of legal problems of his own going on too. So I don't really know what he said. And I was naive. I didn't know anything about the system. I was a first-time offender. So it was a lot.
So first-time offender, and the judge gave you 30-year sentence?
Yes.
That is just unbelievable.
Yeah, but that's one of the penalties of going to trial.
Right.
When you go to trial, they're going to throw everything at you, even the kitchen sink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I kind of remember, too, you telling me that there were guys that testified against you that you had never seen or even met before.
Not at all. Never seen him, didn't know him. Yes. And when the government needs a witness, they'll just call anybody, and they don't even verify your story. They need bodies. And they'll just call you in, and you'll tell them anything. And then that is basically for them to give you a what they call a downward departure. Taking time off of your sentence.
I remember when I was at the camp, there was a lot of guys that were trying to snitch on different guys just to be able to get their sentence lowered. And that's just very, very common in the system.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. But we're sitting here today. This is a couple weeks after George Floyd and civil unrest in this country. And I called you earlier in the week and I said, Peak, as good friends as we are, I have never asked you about what it was like growing up as a black man in Brooklyn, New York, which is where you grew up, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
And we never talked about race. We never talked about, our different lives because of our colors or what had happened and how the systems may have treated us differently.
Mm-hmm.
So I invited you to have this conversation. I'm very grateful that we were sitting here today.
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of like your mother's from Haiti.
No, Jamaica. We're all
Jamaica,
from,
I'm sorry, Jamaica.
You're all from Jamaica.
You're all from Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
And when did you first move to New York?
1974, I came to America.
And how old were you at that time?
7 years old.
7 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And then when was the first time you were kind of aware of your race? The fact that you were black and other people in New York were white, or how were you treated? When did it first make a difference to you?
We lived in Brooklyn, and unfortunately, growing up in America, you know already your color, especially if you're in a lower economic level. So we lived in an area called Crown Heights, and there was Jewish and a lot of people from the Caribbean there. And unfortunately, people of color, especially poorer classes, are usually treated differently. You know, because of the neighborhoods that you live in, because of, you're living in apartment buildings, and, the neighborhood is, okay, but you just know there's a difference between you and, whites.
Yeah, you just know there's a difference.
Yeah, of course,
Yeah.
based on, how America came to be and all the issues that America's had throughout history.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And when you were growing up, did you have any problems with the police at all?
No, not at all.
No problems with the police?
Not at all, sir.
Were you ever stopped because you were black?
I don't think so. I can't remember those type of things. I grew up in the inner city, of course, and there were a lot of crime around. There's a lot of things going on, but overall, I never had any problems growing up from, until I basically got arrested on the federal crime. Never had a problem.
You were very fortunate then.
Mm-hmm.
Because we hear a lot these days about how black men, especially young black men, are much more likely to be stopped and searched.
Yeah, I know
like
people who have had issues, of course, and every now and then, these things do happen. But no, I cannot say that I had any issues growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, were you living in Mississippi when you got your case?
I had a business there, and I used to travel back and forth. Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, I lived in New York, and I lived in Mississippi. Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. One of the things that I remember from Butner,
Mm-hmm.
the guys that were there for drugs, a lot of them hated the white collar guys because they thought the white collar guys got off a lot easier than the drug dealers. Do you have any thoughts on that at all?
Not really, because it's a different crime. It's a different element,
Mm-hmm.
and America tends to view the war on drugs,
Right.
as their banner. That's they feel as if drugs is one of the most serious crimes out there,
Mm-hmm.
and that is why they're giving away so much time for this. And there's a lot of history that behind that, and it's a man-made thing, of course. That's their thing that many of us do believe, and I believe that also, that they use to target people of color, to
Yeah.
lock them up, to give them more time, to keep them disenfranchised. And also, a lot of people don't understand that every agency has to show a reason why they exist.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are a cop, you're going to arrest people. It doesn't matter who you arrest, but people, they want to see arrests.
Right.
If you are, law enforcement, if you are the judge, you have to sentence people. So to me and to many people, all they want are these bodies.
I think that is so true because I noticed that too with the prosecutors, even going up to the white collar guys,
Mm-hmm.
they would just throw almost anything at guys just to be able to get that body count, so to
That's
speak,
right.
up there.
That's right.
It's just like they just want another, another star in their, in their folder or whatever. They just wanted to have get the big fish or maybe even the smaller fish, but they had to have the numbers in order to justify their jobs, and that's how their promotions were based, was how successful their prosecution rates were.
That's right, numbers.
Yeah. And they wouldn't really take you to trial unless they thought they were going to win. That's why they have like 98%. But the real reason why they have 98% success rate is because there's so few people who actually go to trial.
That's right.
They just try to get people to plead guilty, and they'll threaten all sorts of things in order to get you to plead guilty. They'll go after your family. They'll take all your money away, so you cannot get any legal defense. There's all sorts of things they can do to really put the hammer down on you.
Yes, they do.
But the key thing is they really threaten you with the time.
That's right.
And threaten me with 20 to 30 years for a white collar, crime.
It's scary.
It is very, very scary.
For a first-time offender, yeah.
For a first-time offender, no criminal history whatsoever.
That's
It's just really, really bad.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then for you, 30 years for a first-time offender is just unbelievable. That's an actual sentence.
Yeah, and to be in all fairness, they offered me 4 years, then 5, and because of bad lawyering, I went to trial, and then it was like they were very pissed off, and they decided to just really, really, really punish me. Yeah. So, and if one looks at my story, you can see, okay, as you just said, they will offer you a plea.
Yeah.
All right, they will offer you that. They didn't really have a case on me, but when I decided to go to trial, that's really when they decided, okay, bring in all these people to testify, and that's it. And the rest just takes on a life of its own. Yeah,
so you think the reason why you were convicted was because of all these people who you did not know, had never met, came on the stand and lied about you?
Oh, not necessarily. There were people that I knew who lied about me, and there were people that I never met that lied about me.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, so I was partly true on that one then.
Yes, sir, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then when you first entered the system, starting a 30-year sentence, where did you start your
I started
incarceration at?
In Pennsylvania, FCI McKean.
And what is that? Was that a high-security prison?
It wasn't a penitentiary, but it was what they call a medium high. You had fences, you had a couple of fences, you had metal beds. It was a step below the penitentiary. I never went to the penitentiary because I was a first-time offender. It was a drug crime, and it's only your time, the amount of time that you have, that'll get you at those high, how do you say, high-security prisons.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Was it pretty rough there?
Not for me personally, but it was rough there. But I didn't have problems.
Yeah.
I didn't have a problem at all.
Yeah.
But race in America, as we were talking about, every so often you experience it, no matter who you are, and you yourself may experience it just from another white person who doesn't like the way you look, or another person of color who may not like the way you look or act. But even on the inside, people have their favorites, and right now as we're talking about race, and it's a very sensitive topic to a lot of people, and it has to take something really extraordinary, something very egregious to bring it out, like how it's coming out now.
Yeah.
Yeah. People push it under the rug, people dismiss it, but when there is something so blatant, such as a man who is kneeling on another man's neck, a man who is supposed to be a peace officer, one who has been told by who's been told by the victim, hey, I can't breathe. And, and it's when you look at it, it hurts, because you see that there's something going on here. It's not just a cop doing his duty. There has to be something going on, because he was just, the police just didn't get it, or he didn't want to get it.
Yeah, no, he didn't want to get it at all. The conscience of America was really shocked.
Yeah.
Everyone was really shocked.
And, the way it looked is that he didn't show any emotion, not anger, just like, it was like sitting down on a couch.
Yeah. Yeah, and really the other cops that were there, they weren't like yelling at the guy like, get off the neck, get off the neck.
No,
None of that happened.
Yeah, and it's funny because so many things come out about the trainings that cops receive, that they have to get their quota, as we just talked about, and how people of color are the best resources for them to meet their quota, because we don't retaliate enough, we don't call the higher ups, and also we're not articulate enough. We don't tend to know the channels to vent our frustrations, so we're always being picked upon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, it's interesting, and this is certainly not trying to make any type of moral equivalence here or whatever, but when we were at Butner, most of the staff there was African American. And from a white man's standpoint, I can see where they really picked on the white guys.
Oh, you saw that?
Yeah,
okay.
I saw that.
Okay. And it happens.
Yeah.
Racism is not one way. And I don't want to just say racism overall, because there are black people who have bad attitudes. And if they're in front of me and I feel the attitude, there's going to be a conflict between us, and I'm going to feel like they don't like me, and they're going to feel like I don't like them. And if we're the same color, it's not viewed as race. But if there is a difference of the color, then automatically racism.
Right.
So I
think that's very true, because I mean, a lot of the staff people there, they hated everybody. They hated inmates. They really hated everybody. They treated everybody. Maybe that's a better way to say. They treated everyone equally poorly.
Yes.
And I just kind of took it personally because of that difference in color.
But
that may have been the case. But now that we were talking about that,
I've had some good experiences there with staff. In fact, I can't lie to you. I've had good experiences throughout my years in the system with both black and white cops, and I don't think I can't lie at all either. Racism is not my go-to answer for conflict between myself and other people of color who are in position. It's never been in. I can't remember too often in my life that I could say that guy's a racist or that person's a racist. Yeah. I don't really feel that.
Yeah.
Do
you feel that words thrown around too much in our society today?
Right now with what's going on, maybe not, because we're looking at the structure of all this in society. We're looking at it from that perspective, but sometimes it can be, especially in an ignorant way, because as I said to you before, if you walk a certain way or talk a certain way and I don't particularly care for it, and because you're a white person, it's not because I'm not going to view you because of your race. I'm viewing you because of, just of a social issue. Maybe it's the way you react. Maybe it's the way you walk. Maybe it's the way you talk. Maybe it's the way you dress. I can't lie. Also, any person who comes in front of me with their pants hanging and showing their underwear. I mean, you're not going to get a good reaction out of me personally.
Right.
No matter what color you are.
Yeah. And we saw a lot of that, didn't we?
We're seeing a lot of that now. In fact, that's the style now. That's
something I've never gotten. I mean, maybe I'm nearly 65 years old, so
I'm
maybe it's just my age, on this one, but I don't understand it.
It's pretty overrated. You don't need to worry about that. Yeah, it's pretty overrated.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it is. I think that's the go-to word for a lot of people, especially people who just don't get it.
Yeah.
People can not like you because of your color, because of the way you look, because of the way you walk, even because of the position that you hold. Yeah, and those things happen, of course.
Yeah.
But I don't really believe that it's always because of race. But those things do happen. Just like you hear about people. I've had friends who go into a hotel, same thing like we saw on TV 2 years ago, and they're not treated fairly. You know, or they may go into a place and they find that they have to wait excessively long. In my job, I go to different places, and you know, sometimes I feel like, you know, I just don't equate it to race, but I just feel as if, why is this person here not, you know, doing their job as effectively as they should?
Yeah.
And many times it's the black people too.
Yeah.
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 So maybe it has to do with more with people's attitudes overall
Yeah.
than it is over a particular racial issue. Then
I can't say. I can't say. I don't want to say that because, you know, you don't know what goes on inside a person's mind.
no, you really don't know.
You know, but I'm not always the first person to say that guy is racist, that girl is racist, they don't like people of color. Nah, I don't see that at all. No, I don't.
Well, that's one thing I started noticing really when I was in prison and dealing, because we were in such a confined area in those buildings, and we ate together.
Yep.
We, you know, 84 people in one room in a building. It was just incredible. But you don't know what that other person's going through, whether he just got off the phone with his wife or his child and has all sorts of problems at home. You just don't know what they're going through.
You know,
What they just found out about, what's going on in their mind, you know.
I'm going to tell you something. People out here who are quote unquote free are always going through something.
Yeah.
People in there always going through something. So what I'm trying to say is that life, you're always going to be going through something.
Right.
Always. And that's not necessarily the best excuse to why someone is going to act up or to give you attitude, because if you and I are both in prison, obviously our lives are disrupted.
Right.
Yeah. And we both have family, friends, and we're in a place that we don't want to be. So, you know, there's a lot of issues that stem around that, but that still does not give a person the right to,
Right.
you know, just to be wrong or just to be, you know, rude or disrespectful.
And this is why empathy and compassion are so important today.
It is. It is.
It really is.
And that was one of the things that drew me to you when I met you, that you're very empathetic. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry. I get tongue-tied with that word. But
Thanks.
you showed a lot of empathy and very compassionate. And, you know, you're very interesting. You know, and you still are, too.
Thank you.
Yeah, you still are. You know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as I said, I've always valued our friendship, and I'm actually very grateful that when you moved down to Atlanta, that you looked me up as soon as you did, and we're able to get together as often as we do.
Yeah, we need to get together more often.
We need to get together more
Yes,
often,
we do.
and I'm very grateful to be able to have this type of conversation too.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm actually embarrassed in a way that we never had this conversation.
You know, I'm going to tell you why we never had it. Because I never saw color through you. I never saw that as a barrier to our relationship.
Right.
And when I first met you, you did not show me that you looked at me in any way inferior. And in fact, because I was a quote unquote fortune teller,
Yeah.
because I knew Chinese astrology, because I could write Chinese, and also I did the divination, the I Ching.
Yeah, the I Ching, that was very cool.
Yeah, and you know, so you made me feel as if like, hey man, you know, I'm worthy.
Yeah.
You know, and you made me feel as if I brought value to our relationship. Yeah. And you brought a lot of value to the relationship also. And I think that's where people need to meet. People don't need to meet on superficial things like likes, dislikes, you know, wrongs or right. You know, people need to connect on a higher consciousness.
Yeah.
You know, that's beyond the superficial. And I felt like we were connected because I meditated an hour daily. I was into bettering myself spiritually. I read a lot. I was into business. And, you know, so... And
I was into all that.
All that.
I've been practicing meditations since 1974.
Wow, yeah, transcendental.
Well, yeah, Transcendental Meditation, 1974. I read a lot.
Yes.
Very spiritual, not necessarily religious, but just spiritual.
Exactly, and that's where we connected.
We definitely we connected at the
root.
at the heart level, you know.
Yeah, that's what we did.
Not really at the head level, but at the heart level.
That's right, and you know, and that's it. We would get together and just talk about all type of stuff in our experiences, and that's the thing. One of the things I've done this with a lot of people before, because I think that a lot of people forget things. You may pass someone on the street, like you and I. All right, we may pass each other on the street, and you may say, "Well, we got nothing in common except we're both bald-headed."
Yeah.
All right? I may say that too.
Yeah.
But I don't.
Right.
If I stopped you and I spoke to you, and even if it's 20, 15 minutes, we would realize that we had so much in common.
Yeah.
But yet still we would pass each other like two ships in the night. But and that's the problem with our society. Both black and white and all peoples of colors from different nationalities, if they took the time to engage each other, they would realize that they had so much in common, you know, and that, you know, they would probably be the best of friends.
Yeah, that is such great advice too.
It is.
We really need to be talking to each other more.
We do.
That's really what it is. We need to be talking and sharing, just like you and I are sharing right now. We need to be able to do that and have honest, you know, conversations.
Of course.
And just realize that we're all human, that, you know, we're in this journey, sharing the same earth plane. Maybe we're on different journeys, but we're still here together, and we can make or break another person's day, another person's life.
Yes.
We can really contribute to another person's life. And a lot of times we just do not understand what impact we have on other people.
Yes, that's a fact.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hearing a little bit more, probably for the first time, about how I may have impacted you. And I feel much the same way with you.
Yeah.
With all the advice that you gave me and being able to connect with me, and you were kind of like a brother to me in the system.
Of course, and
you know?
You're still a brother to me.
Yeah, still
yeah,
brothers.
we're still brothers. That's right.
Still brothers.
We're still
yeah.
brothers. You know,
still
and
brothers.
especially with your wife too. You know, I can't lie to you. I don't know who I like more. You know, my sister or my brother.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's right, and that's the thing. People connect on different levels if you give yourself an opportunity to open up.
Right.
You know, you stay closed up, you'll never know what you're gonna miss.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, are you pretty optimistic about going forward from here?
I'm very optimistic. Sir.
Yeah.
Very optimistic. You know,
we're gonna get all this worked out, right?
Of course we are.
Yeah.
We can get everything worked out. That's how life is.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing about it is, when you're locked up on the inside, basically change happens very, 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 very slowly. But once you're out here, you have an opportunity every day to change your life. Every day you have an opportunity to change your life.
Right.
And I look forward to life-changing opportunities.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I would not wish my my experience in prison on my worst enemy. But in so many ways, I'm glad I went through it, because I learned so much, you know, so much about myself and about life and about other, you know, other people, including having a chance to meet you and some others that have become good friends.
Yes.
And so it's been a very valuable experience, and you would never think of that of a prison journey. But again, I wouldn't wish it on anybody else. And, you know, certainly most of those lessons I could have learned in a much shorter period of time. And certainly you could have learned them a lot sooner than 19 years, you know.
Yes.
So, now ultimately, the reason why you got out, you were sentenced to 30 years, which in prison time, you actually serve 85% of your sentence. But in your case, you were able to get a pardon from President Obama. How did that come about?
Well, the term is actually called the clemency. I got the clemency.
Clemency, okay.
Yeah, from President Obama. So I wound up serving 19 years, 6 months. But if I did not had got the clemency, I would have wound up serving 26 and a half years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
long time.
Yeah, so I got out like 7 years early.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you're still young enough that you can have an impact on a lot of other people on the outside here too.
Well, we're trying. We're trying. We've learned a lot of lessons, and we're trying to make sure that a lot of people don't have to go through what we went through in order to learn these lessons.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much what I'm kind of devoting my life to right now with my speaking and teaching and training.
Yes.
Was that, everything that happened to me was very preventable. And I just don't want other people to make the same mistakes that I made and, go through what I went through, because it's definitely life-changing. And one thing you really learn is that, we could really go through the experience, but our families are the ones that had the roughest time. My wife, had a really rough time when I was in prison. I know you were not married at that time. But your mother, you didn't see your mother for years and years and years because she couldn't travel to go visit you.
Well, the situation is when I got locked up, I actually had a lady and a child at home.
Okay.
And we were not married, but we were living together. And she's the one that I would have married, and she was the love of my life. And I lost her. 19 years, 6 months, I never really developed a relationship with my daughter because I was gone for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom, I saw my mom, when I first started, I was 6.5 hour drive away. Then about, years and years down the road, I was about maybe 3 hours away. Then, unfortunately, when I went to Butner, I was
a long ways away.
Long ways away.
Yeah,
long ways away. Probably about maybe 14 hours by car away. So it made it very hard. But as you were saying, the experiences that you have gone through to be able to help someone make a better decision about where to do their time, how to do their time, just how to approach, sentencing, those things are very important, because with your experience and what you know so far,
mm-hmm.
you can help somebody get the lower end of the guidelines
mm-hmm.
instead of the high end of the guidelines. You could help them to find the best possible prison. You could help them to get their family life in order, because a lot of people, they're very optimistic about their chances and think things are just going to work out. And many times your situation is only going to be as good as you are.
Yeah.
In other words, if you have a good lawyer and you try to make the best of that lawyering experience, then you have a better situation. But
Right.
if you just sit back and say, "Oh, I got a lawyer, everything's going to work out," no. I mean, your lawyer is busy; he can't help you with everything.
Right.
But having an advocate for you.
Right.
All right, having an advocate that's going to basically help you to navigate the system, help you to find where it is that you need to be, how to get your finances in order, how to structure things, how it's a lot. And I didn't have all that.
Yeah.
I didn't. And I went in there very optimistic, and basically nothing worked out.
Yeah. It is. You got to go in there prepared, and
Mm-hmm.
and that's my pre-incarceration consulting. But my speeches and my training is so that people do not go to prison in the first place, so they do not commit crimes.
I wish I knew about. Yeah, a lot of people don't understand how the law works,
Right.
and the ramifications of breaking it, and how the conspiracy aspect worked. And these are things here that I do believe, because because of your experience, you could surely help someone to navigate this system. Because if you don't, you're going to be in for a rude awakening.
See, that's the whole thing, is that the most common charge that these prosecutors go almost anyone with is conspiracy, because the bar of proof is so low.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All they need is one meeting that you attended, one document, one telephone call, one text, almost anything to prove that you touched conspiracy in some way, you can be charged with the entire conspiracy.
That's right.
And when you're charged with entire conspiracy, that's how they jack up the time in prison, is because they could pull in everything that the co-conspirators did, not just your particular role in it, but everything.
That's right.
And people do not realize that. They just do not realize how dangerous
It's very dangerous.
and how easy it is to be charged with conspiracy.
And also,
Almost anything can get you charged with conspiracy.
that's right. And, the idea of understanding, your lawyer sometimes is very busy. It could be a private lawyer or a public defender.
Right.
And they're very busy. And sometimes they don't have the time to explain things to you in, as detailed as you need it. And then sometimes the quicker you get an opportunity to adjudicate your case, which is basically getting your discovery, realizing what you did, understanding what you did,
Right.
understanding the law and how you broke it, the quicker it is that you may have to just basically plead guilty and get this over with so that you
Right.
could put it behind you and start looking forward to the next aspect of your life.
That is true.
Yes.
Let me ask you, when you were sentenced, did they take you into a custody, write that in there?
Yes. When I blew trial,
Yeah.
yes, that same day I was taken into custody.
Yeah.
Mhm.
See, in my case, I was given a year before I had to report.
Oh man.
So in order to get all my business in order, and the way that it worked out, it was 18 months between my sentence and the time that I reported, and I self-reported.
Great.
My wife drove me to prison
yeah.
and dropped me off at the front gate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know. So, but yeah, being taken away that day without having a chance to get all your affairs in order, that is really tough. That's
It
really
is.
a hard way to do it.
Yeah, it is. But
And that is one of the risks of going to trial, because they know they have you right then and there.
Yeah, and sometimes not truly understanding that if you blow trial, what your sentence is going to be.
Yeah.
When you figure, okay, they offered me 4 years and 5 years, so if I go to trial, I may only get 10.
Yeah. Wasn't that way at all.
Not at all. And I truly did not. I didn't think I was going to get 30 years. I didn't even know that I can get 30 years.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah, that's really bad lawyering there.
Yes, it was. It was very bad lawyering.
Well, Peak, thank you very much for sitting down today. This has really been nice.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to go out downstairs and have a really nice dinner and a glass of wine.
Yes, we are.
And carry on this conversation off camera.
Yes, sir.
But I appreciate you sitting down on camera and going through and doing this.
I'll do anything
It's been a lot of fun.
It's been a lot of fun.
Been a lot of fun.
Yes, sir.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome, brother.
Appreciate it.
All right.
My man.
Of course.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right. Here we go.